Hello everybody, welcome to my channel. So today we're going to be talking about shadow work. It's going to be an ultimate guide for beginners. So before we get going on the full bulk of the video, please like and subscribe to the channel. This will allow me to grow my audience, get better guest speakers and provide you with more value. So go ahead, like and subscribe and let's get going. To open this session today, I want to start with a little quote by Carl Jung, the psychologist. I'm sure you've probably heard of him. This quote is going to really define what shadow work is all about. Okay, and we're going to start to break it down throughout the video so you can have a better understanding of what shadow work is, why it's so essential for our soul's growth, and why it's not a negative thing. So let's go with this Carl Jung quote. So it goes a little something like this. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Allow that to sink in for a moment. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. What does Jung mean here? Before we get into what shadow work is, I want to let you know that the subconscious brain, as well as other areas in the body, such as the fascia, the connective tissue that surrounds the organs and the tissues and the muscles, and the subtle bodies, the chakra system, our energy bodies, all of these areas store things that we have not been able to deal with in the past. Okay, but they're brought into the present in our body. You've probably heard of the book, The Body Keeps the Score. And all of these things that are inside of our subconscious, which makes up more than 80% of the brain, inside of our fascia, inside of our subtle energy bodies, inside of our cells, the nervous system, get stored and they form the way in which we live our life. If we don't bring them to our consciousness, what Carl Jung was saying when he was speaking about making the unconscious conscious is looking at the things that are holding us back, that are tying us to the past, that are stopping us from moving forward on our soul's path, on our soul's journey. But before we can actually even work with those things and bring our shadow to light, we have to understand that they're there in the first place. So we're going to get into that in a moment when we talk about how we can actually work with the shadow, how you can start to integrate that into your daily life easily. It doesn't have to be this big, huge breadth of work that's going to take over your life in an already very fast-paced, already very full schedule. It's something you can integrate into your life, into your daily life, moment by moment when it arises. So we'll get into that at the end of the video, so stay tuned for that. Let's break down what shadow work actually is. Our shadow part of ourselves is essentially the stuff that we've hidden in the closet that we've been too afraid to deal with. We haven't felt it was the right time to deal with. It's sometimes part of ourselves that we are ashamed of. It's our insecurities. It's the part of us that we don't really like to show. So the shadow self is essentially the more unsavory part of our being that we don't want to show to the world. But the problem is when we do this, when we hide our shadow, we hide our so-called, I'm saying so-called negative part of ourselves that we don't want to show to the general public. In fact, we don't really want to be part of it. We try and repress it, suppress it, push it away because we only want to be seen as the more positive attributes of our character. Okay, and then we end up wearing false social mask, and that's something that I'm going to get into in a moment. So we hide the shadow, and that's why it becomes the shadow. But just because we hide something, it doesn't mean to say it goes away. It doesn't mean to say it's not there. And it doesn't mean to say it doesn't dictate our life, because it does. It forms the patterns of behavior that we move through during our time on earth. It forms the habits that we have, our daily habits. It forms the way in which we interact with people, what it is that we get attached to or not. It forms the way our social situations, how we work. It forms our happiness, really, because the way in which we experience joy really comes from acceptance. forgiveness and acceptance and love. And when we have a part of ourselves that we are not forgiving, we are not accepting, we are not loving, because we're saying that's a bad part of us, then what happens is we are denying and rejecting all part of our being. And what I want to say about the shadow that's very, very misunderstood is many people see the shadow as a negative part of us. And the negative part of us should not be seen. And that's a bad part, right? Because we've got this weird false judgment that negative means bad and bad is not good and we shouldn't be doing it. And positive is good and good things we should be doing and we want to be seen as that. What happens when we have this misconception actually about bad and good, evil and wonderful and negative and positive is that we deny the polarity of the existence of both. Actually, good people have bad traits and bad people have good traits. And it's the polarity that makes up the multidimensional existence of a human being or something living in general. What we're really doing when we're working with shadow is recognizing that it's okay to have parts of ourselves that are more unsavory and other parts of ourselves that are more fruitful, and we enjoy sharing those parts. And what we're really doing is we are being very, very honest with ourselves when we're working with shadow work. We are being honest with who we are and we are starting to become more authentic. Now, there's a huge problem going on at the moment. I mean, it's something that's been going on for a while, and that's one of the reasons that we do hide our shadow. It's one of the reasons we don't like to put forth some of the more unsavory or something that we at least deem as unsavory, but we're multifaceted beings, right? It's important that we have these two polarities. But one of the reasons that we shove this down and really closet our shadow and just allow it to hang behind us through our life, never really accepting it, never really loving it, never really releasing it, and never really showing it to anyone, is because we put on a false social mask. And more and more and more in modernity, in this modern day world that we're living in, we are putting on this false social mask. Now, there's a few things that have really exaggerated our need to wear this false identity, wear this mask. And the mask is essentially, I have a positive life. Everything's good in my life. Look at all of this stuff that I've got. Look how my life's going. Look at all of the money that I've got in my bank. All of this false social mask. And what happens when we only trade this very one-sided part of our multidimensional being, the light, when we only show the light part of us and we're afraid to show the darkness gets stronger. The shadow becomes stronger, because what happens is whatever we don't accept, we attach ourselves to and we keep. That is the irony here. Whatever we accept, this is a really important thing that I'm going to say for shadow work that we're going to get into in a moment. Whatever we accept, we bring to peace. Now, this shadow that follows us around, that dictates our life, and we call it fate, like Carl Jung says. All it ever wanted was acceptance. All it ever wanted was love. The reason it's created in the first place is because it came from a lack of love. It came from a lack of acceptance. When we feed that same way of treating something to the shadow, that lack of love, that lack of acceptance, that lack of forgiveness, inability to like a part of ourselves, when we feed that same thing back to the shadow by disgracing it, by hiding it, by not allowing it to be shown, we treat it in the same way it's always been treated. And when you do something the same way it's always been done and it's not working, it's not going to release. It's not going to change anything. So remember that the shadow was created out of insecurity. It's a collection of our pain and the things that we don't like about ourselves, that we don't want to show because we feel we're going to get rejected. If we carry on giving it the same treatment, we're going to get the same results. The shadow can be brought to light and can be released by acceptance. Whatever we accept, we bring to peace. And when we bring something to peace, it releases. So really that's what shadow work is about. This is a really main part of shadow work that I think is not talked about enough. yes, you might be feeling, well, why on earth would I want to go ahead and show everybody all this darkness inside of me? There's parts of it that are not very kind. There's parts of it I might even say are quite evil. Why would I want to go ahead and do those things? I'm not talking about having to act on the shadow and become the shadow. That's the whole point of what I'm actually talking about. We actually do become the shadow if we don't accept it, because what we don't accept, we become and we keep. What we do accept, we release, and therefore we don't become. Acceptance is a huge part, and loving parts of ourselves that we once deemed as unlovable is one of the most powerful ways to be able to release the shadow. So let's get into the last part of this video. Let's get into how we can start to work with shadow work. There are 5 main components that I like to address. The first one is awareness. The second one is becoming the observer of our emotions and our thoughts. The third one is being brutally honest with ourselves. The fourth one is self-acceptance, and the fifth one is repetition. Repeat the first 4 things, because repetition, as Tony Robbins says, is the mother of skill, and if we don't repeat things, we lose things. And so we need to keep repeating something, like a mantra. Whatever mantra we play over and over and over again, we become. So it's all about repeating these things. Now let's get into awareness. Very quickly, let's talk about awareness. So let's say you put these 5 steps into your daily life. You can do it as a little session in your life. You can also do it as a point in the day where you have noticed that the shadow is coming in and it's sabotaging something that you're trying to do. It might come in the form of a habit that's sabotaging your day. It might come in the form of you trying to move forward in your business and you are stuck at a point because your self-doubt and your insecurities, the shadow is coming in and it's sabotaging your growth. It's sabotaging a project that you're trying to work on. It can come in at any point in the day. It's the master saboteur, so it comes in and it will sabotage your progress. Now, as that saboteur comes in, awareness has to strive for us to be able to recognize the shadow, to make it conscious. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life. Without the awareness that, oh, that's the shadow there trying to sabotage something in my life. Without that awareness, we can't bring it into our consciousness. We can't then do the other steps, therefore we can't release it. So awareness is the first step of making friends with the shadow and releasing some of these things that are hiding in the closet. How do we work with awareness? Now, my absolute favorite awareness tool is Kundalini Yoga. At the moment, I've got a course running. It's an 8-week course, a journey through the chakras using Kundalini Yoga. Like I said at the beginning of the video, we store all of this shadow in all of these different areas in the body and the subconscious mind. This practice helps. It's energy work. It works with the mind. It works with the breath. It works with the body. It helps to release these energetic stucknesses, blockages that are weighing us down in the past, and it helps to move us forward. The link is in the comments of this video if you want to go ahead and get one of the early birds. I think I've got round about 11 left. Kundalini Yoga is my absolute favorite way to develop awareness. In fact, Kundalini means awareness. It's a light force energy that resides in the base of the body, and when we start to work with our subtle energy field and our body, our mind, our spirit, we raise this awareness so that we can become more observant. This is going to be my next step in the shadow work. We become more observant of our shadow, of the things that are holding us back, so we can catch them in action and do something about it. So awareness, that's the first step. Number 2 is become very aware of your emotions and your thoughts. So you're becoming the observer. This becomes much an easier task when you start to develop your awareness. Okay, without awareness, it's very hard to actually observe emotions when we're reacting to things, observe thoughts when these thoughts are starting to sabotage our process and we're overthinking. Without the awareness, we can't even move on to this step. So we're developing the awareness, then we're starting to become the observer of our thoughts, the observer of our emotions in day to day. So you can start to practice this more and more, and you'll then start to notice when the shadow is becoming an emotional reaction, when the shadow is becoming a thought pattern pattern that is driving you down a rabbit hole of destruction. So it's really important to become aware and then to become the observer. The next thing when you're working with shadow work is being brutally honest. Being honest with yourself. What am I actually hiding inside of myself that is holding me back? What are my insecurities? We can speak these out loud. We can write them down. We can journal. They'll start to come to light more and more as you start to raise your awareness through these energy practices, as you start to become the observer. When you start to do those things, you can work into that third step, which is about being honest with yourself and going, actually, yes, I have got this part of myself that I am not allowing myself to accept. There are parts of myself that I'm feeling insecure and I'm attached to the past and it's stopping me from being present. Actually starting to be very brutally honest with yourself and what it is that's holding you back is the third step in shadow work. The fourth step is self-acceptance. As we start to become aware, become the observer of our emotions and how we're interacting and reacting throughout life, becoming very honest with how we're doing this and how we're moving through life, then we will bring that shadow to the surface and then we can start to forgive it. Then we can start to love it. Then we can start to find some self-acceptance towards it so that it can release. Because without the self-acceptance, we can't bring the shadow to peace. So they're the 4 steps really. And the 5th step is repeat. Now you can do this as like a little thing in your day, right? You could write these steps down and you can do it in your daytime. You can put it into practice in real life. Become aware. Okay, I'm aware I am now reacting in a certain way. Watch that reaction through awareness, through taking a step back. Be very honest with that reaction. Where's this coming from? Okay, this could be part of X, Y, and Z that I'm storing and I've not been able to accept. And then you can work with forgiveness, acceptance. Okay, you can do that through meditation. You can do that through journaling. You can do that through actually speaking, having a word with oneself and starting to integrate that shadow into your life so that you can see it more, you can deal with it more, and it will start to release. You might have seen the film that Eminem is in called 8 Mile. Do you remember if you watch that film and he starts to rap on stage about all of the things that the other rapper won't be able to hold against him because he said it all. The most powerful person in the room is the one who's got nothing to hide. I'm going to leave it at that. Have a wonderful day. If you want to join my 8-week course to help you connect to a deeper sense of self, honesty, authenticity, and awareness, remember to go into the link below. Okay, lots of love. Thanks for listening. I hope this helps. Hi guys, thanks for watching that video with me. Don't forget to like and subscribe, it means the world to me. If you would like to watch any more videos, there's 2 here just for you.